let's go back to 3.5 weeks ago when Baldy, without any emotion, like you just say things matter-of-factly because, like you saw that this Eagles team was a matchup nightmare, and you went, they're going to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I thought they were the best team all year. I thought they were the best team. I thought they were the most complete team. I thought that they didn't have a single weakness on the team. They were relatively healthy as any team out there. I mean, really went healthy almost start to finish this year. That's a big part. And I thought the coaching was good. I thought Vic Fangio was perfect for this team. He molded these young kids. And I just thought that they had the right I thought they had the right emotion. I mean, I know there was things up and down a little bit with the coach, maybe the quarterback, the receiver, but that stuff happens during the season. But I thought this was the best team in the trenches by far of any team in this league. Kansas City had to fix their left tackle position. I mean, there's things that happen, and all these teams in the postseason. I thought Detroit, if they saw them, they would destroy Detroit's defense. And so Washington was a good story, but they were outmatched. And I didn't know Saquon would go 60 in the first play, but I did it like that because I really didn't want to leave anybody any doubt about what I was thinking. You know, people can get wishy-washy and, boy, I got to cover my ass if I don't say the right thing, if I get it wrong. I'm like, I'll live with it. I'll live with the results. Like, I thought they were a 4-0 team in the postseason. They had a week to get ready, and they've demonstrated it.
Yeah, and I think it's important to say that you saw how dominant they were on both fronts. I mean, that was obviously we all know about Barkley and AJ and Devontae, the whole thing. But you saw that O-line, you saw Jalen Carter and the defensive line with, Nolan Smith coming along, and you went, that's how you win.
You know what I see, Cuz? I see player development. I'm here in Mobile.
Yeah.
And I'm just watching the coaching, I'm listening to it, paying attention to what they're saying, the offense line. If you don't have player development, you know what you end up doing? You end up going out there and buying your team in free agency, putting yourself in cap hell. And, it's like, okay, they overspent for Bryce Huff. They made a mistake. But Joe Banner said it. Look, Nolan Smith developed. If Nolan Smith doesn't develop, they got a huge hole in their defense, especially with Brandon Graham going down. But Nolan Smith developed. He's a frontline player right now. And if Mahomes starts getting out and running and chasing like he does, Nolan Smith's going to suck him up. All right, he's going to chase him down and he's going to force him into a bad throw or a sack. It's just what he's doing right now. But you look at Quinion, that interception on Terry McLaurin in the end zone. I know it's at the end of the game. Like, he jumped higher, he jumped faster, and he positioned himself perfectly, like he did all year. And so you just see player development. Mekhi Becton never played guard in his life. Never. Nobody ever said he could play it. I asked him in the offseason, can he play guard? He goes, I'm going to find out. I'm going to try. If that's where I got to play, I'm going to try. But that's where I believe, and this is going to sound like it's just silly platitude, but I believe Jeff Stoutland is the best football coach in America. Now, you could say Andy Reid's a head coach and Belichick. That's all true. But they do a whole lot more than coach. Now, they have eyes on everything. But if you just want to coach a position, I mean, you watched last week, and the Pro Bowl center has got a bad back and he's on the sideline. They moved the Pro Bowl left guard to center. He hadn't played center yet since he left Alabama. He gets hurt. Now Jurgens is coming cold off the bench with a bad back, and Tyler Steen is playing guard, and they didn't skip a beat. That doesn't happen in this league, cuz.
No.
But here's the thing. Here's one thing I want to say. Because I told this to Stout, and you can't blow any smoke up his ass. He doesn't want to hear it. But he's the only coach in this league, and I've been doing games every Sunday for 28 years. He's the only offensive line coach that works his guys out before the game. I mean, and it's not just the backups or practice squad guys. He does that. He works out his whole offensive line. Other offensive linemen are in the locker room. They're looking at their iPads, their whatever. He's walking through things that they're going to see game day up until the snap. He's the only offensive line coach that does it. People go, oh, Stout U. He's like, there's a reason why it's Stout U. The school and the session never ends.
That's such a great point. It really is, and you're so right because they're always prepared. He's an incredible teacher of the position. Like you talk about, it's one thing. Hey, anybody could go get a blue chip. Like Jalen Carter would be Jalen Carter no matter what team he's on, right? But Jordan Mailata becomes this incredible left tackle because Stoutland has him and Stoutland teaches, right? You bring up Becton, and like he's like, all right, I'm down. I'll play guard, but like it's a huge difference playing on the edge than it is playing guard. And Stoutland is able to teach him how to play, and he becomes a road grader.
So I saw Stout when I did that Jason Kelsey show a couple weeks ago, and I was just reminding him that if you go back to week 3, this whole season turned around really in week 3. They were getting beat 6-0 in the fourth quarter to New Orleans, and the coach was making some questionable decisions. But I was down the field before the game, and I was watching Stout go through his machinations up front. And New Orleans ran this stunt that was on tape, evidently, where they've got a one technique, but they blitz, they tango the defensive end inside, and they crash it, and it puts the guard in a bind. So Stout's telling the guards, Dickerson in this case, look, you got to bounce the one technique over to Juergens, but as soon as you do that, the end's crashing. If you can come over and bounce him, the hole's going to widen open because the linebacker is blitzing off the edge. That's why they're tangoing the end. He goes, if we can get that in this game, and if you can bounce, it's going to open up a hole for Saquon. So I see Saquon. And I go, how's the offense, Saquon? What do you like? You haven't, he goes, man, Baldy, he goes, this offense is going to be wild. I go, why is that? He goes, because these holes are there, and I'm flattening, I'm getting through the hole, and then I'm trying to get a home run right away instead of pressing the safety or the force. If I press the force first, so he can't flatten me, I can then turn the corner and go a long ways with my speed. Well, damn it, that's exactly what he did. So I tell that to Stout, and he goes, "You saw that, Baldy, before the game?" I'm like, my eyes and ears are open, Stout. Yeah, he goes, that's exactly what happened, and that was his first 60-yard run, and he said, it was on me, it was on Saquon. If I can press Tyrann Mathieu here, and then bounce it like he did last week, well, he broke tackles too, but that's coaching.
Yeah,
that's great players, and that's coaching, and that's where they're different than everybody else.
You know what's so fascinating too is you could, it doesn't matter, you stack the box. And in fact, it's funny, it works against teams like the Rams because when you're stacking that and you think you got every gap filled and
you don't have any second layer or third layer that eliminates that. So it's a huge gamble. And the Rams lost twice. Well, the first one they won the down, but the second one for 72 yards, that's exactly what happened on the play.
Hey, Baldy, so when they stack the box like 8 people in the box, is it just a matter of the Eagles are executing these plays and blocking perfectly? And if so, how much of that is Stoutland as also the run game coordinator?
Well, it is all of that. It's just a myth that you can't run against an 8-man box. Defending Jalen is a big part of winning. Like if you look at, and Kansas City did the same thing last week with Mahomes when he scored. But that mesh point where the teams are kind of guessing who's got the ball at that point, and they're overplaying these plays. That's a big part of it. You got to defend 11 guys, and in an offense that doesn't have a quarterback that runs, you don't have that issue. So you can stack the box and effectively take away all the gaps. But I've always believed, when I play with the Cowboys, we'd play the Bears, and they play their bare front. That's the first 8-man box that was built, and they had the players to do it. But to Cuz's point, if you can penetrate, because you're going to get a lot of, and it's happening right now with the Eagles, you're going to get a lot of 1-yard runs and 2-yard runs, and they're getting a lot of those. But you're also going to get your 60-yard runs. You have to be patient, and you're going to get your splits. It's going to happen. It's going to happen in this game against Kansas City too. So you're going to get your splits and explosive runs, but you have to be patient with it. And then this is where Stout comes in, because there's days where you go, okay, how do we get to Nick Bolton? Freaking, like we walk through it, we practice it for 2 weeks, and we can't get to him. So do you have to fold the block to get to him? Do you have to, do you have to fold the tight end inside to go block? I'm like, how are we going to adjust to go block, whether it's Bolton or Tranquil or Chanel or any of the linebackers in Kansas City? Like you might not be able to fix that till game day when you see where they're at.
Yeah, and Mike Sarava, we had on Mike, who's the Vikings linebackers coach. So
Okay.
we were just talking exactly that because, like he was like, what a nightmare it is that I just can't go, all right, well, I think I got every gap covered because of Jalen, right? And because that's another issue. And then, you have such a great player in Saquon that if he gets a second level, I'm dead. Because he can make
But then you combine all of that with the number of RPOs they threw the other day.
Yeah.
And so now you have your play action pass game off it, and now you have your RPO game off it, and all of a sudden you're sticking them with first downs, and they really can't be right. They can't be right. Now they're wrong because, Malata, AJ Brown's phenomenal receiver, blocker, and so they're getting all this help in the run game, and then okay, here's Bobby Wagner who's seen it all. Like he's not really sure exactly how to slow this thing down, and you get a monster day against him.
You know what's going to be fascinating is Spags against Stoutland, and because would you agree?
And Kellerman.
Would you agree that Buffalo has the second best offensive line?
Yeah, except for the 4th and 5 play at the very end of the game, the right guard,
even
decisive on the play,
right? And it was an incredible play because it was a great overload. Josh sees it, right? He just can't get the ball out early, but he buys enough time to get the throw out to Kincaid. And it was funny because Sarava was breaking that play down. I mean, that's a fascinating, like what we're going to see on Super Bowl Sunday. This is your dream because you see this stuff. And this Spags versus that's going to be interesting.
Well, nobody blitzes, their secondary level players the way Spags does. And that was Trent McDuffie coming right through the B gap. But then Osiris Torrance was like a little frozen, and he didn't block anybody because he was caught in no man's land. You don't really see that from the Eagles ever, but it can happen. But I honestly didn't think the play was for Kincaid. I thought the play was to Shakir, who was, if you think about in the last Super Bowl where the Chiefs score 2 times off basically the same play to secondary guys where they're coming in motion and they're going back. I thought that was the play to Shakir for 4th and 5. It was wide open. Now, maybe Josh never got there because the pressure was in his face right away. Hail Mary to Kincaid. I don't know. I haven't talked to anybody in Buffalo about it. But, Kincaid still has to catch the ball. But still, Spags, all he's trying to do is heat you up and get the ball out faster than you want to get it out.
Nobody does zero like him. Like, I got to believe that we're going to see a lot of that, that Jalen's going to see a lot of that.
I mean, here's what's coming. You get to the red zone and you're in a passing down, it's coming.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know where it's coming from, but it's coming.
Yeah.
You can study all the stats you want. You can study all the tendencies. It's coming. And it might be a blitz zero, it's coming on 3rd or 4th downs in the open field. Something's coming. You don't know where it's coming, but he's not giving it to you pre-snap. All right. So, when Washington destroyed Detroit, Aaron Glenn is giving it to you pre-snap. Like, it was easy for Jaden to see it and get to the right play. Like, he's not giving it to you now. They're not creeping on you. They're not showing you any safety rotation, not showing you anything. Same thing with the Eagles. Vic's not showing you anything either. If they do blitz, which they don't, they only do it when they feel like they have to.
You did a breakdown of Fangio, which I freaking loved because it illustrated how not until snap do they tell you what they're doing. You won't see it pre-snap.
And that's all game. Like the Eagles haven't been down by a whole lot much this year, but there's a couple things. There's a reason why they're plus 10 in turnover ratio, in 3 playoff games, and we have never seen this before ever. They're plus 10 takeaways, no turnovers. Like, you're going to win 3 in a row, but whether they're punching the ball out or intercepting a ball right now, I mean, these quarterbacks are a little bit compromised in what they're doing because of that, because of they're not really sure until the snap.
So, big picture, how is this matchup different than in 2022?
Well, Saquon, right away. Saquon, the linebacking core is much better. They didn't have Zach Bond in that year, and they didn't have the corner in Quinion, I mean, they're so much
in the
better.
middle of the field. Yeah.
James Bradbury was the corner.
Yeah.
Like, he couldn't cover anybody in that game. Then he got the key penalty because he couldn't run. And so he was forced to hold and grab. They called one. They could have called three on him. So they're so much better at right corner. They're so much better at the slot corner in Cooper. They're so much better. Zach Bond is just an amazing player. He's never wrong. It's unbelievable how right he is in this bit. And I'm talking about, if I just did a breakdown of Zach Bond, it would go too long. You'd be bored because of fundamentally how sound he is. Like, there's an old saying, at linebacker, okay? You're trailing a play, it's an outside zone going away. You're slow till you know. Like, you're not in a rush. I see all these linebackers overrun that play, and here comes the cutback on them.
Yeah.
The Cowboys are great at that. Here comes Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
So with that, or if he steps up to clean it up, he's got his outside arm free. He's playing off with his left hand. Like, the fundamentals, he knows exactly what's going on behind him. The hardest thing for any inside linebacker is in your drops, what's the pass action behind me? Is it a curl? Is it a cheese route? What is it? Are they throwing cheese at me so I bite up front and they're throwing it behind me? Like, that guy's ability to know what's going behind him is crazy.
He really is. He's been unbelievable. And then obviously it's Carter. Now, the Chiefs are a little different too, in that they have Worthy. Like, I think they're better. Their receivers are better than they were. In that you got Worthy for it. And then they got Hopkins, and then they'll be able
what's interesting is, so here's a part of the game that's interesting. The Chiefs have a great quick game. So what they realized with Xavier Worthy, and I've seen it with some of these receivers in Mobile, when you're that size, your speed going vertical is not the biggest thing. It's just, you can get big corners to just, like, you could get Sauce Gardner, or you can get, some of these guys out there that can just, even Slay, and they can take away the deep ball.
Yeah.
But what the Chiefs have found is he's really good in the quick game. And so lateral speed, and that's what they're doing. So what's interesting is Washington tried this a bunch against the Eagles, including a 2-point conversion. Their physicality in the quick game is second to none.
I
You're
mean,
going to get a
that's
receiver
Cooper.
trying to block him on the edge.
Right? Like, and Cooper's a big part. Yeah.
They shut your quick game down. They recognize it, and I'm telling you, they run right through your blocks. And so the receiver is sort of at a disadvantage because you can't block until, while the ball's in the air. So you have to stalk block. That's what the Eagles call it. Like, you got to, like, get in position, and then once the ball's caught, then you can attack your guy. And you don't want to attack him too soon because guys get off the block. The Eagles have figured this stuff out on the perimeter, and they attack the stalks better than anybody in this league. And so it's just something to look at during the course of this game, because the Chiefs were very good at it last week. They got a lot of early completions and first downs to start that game.
Hey, all right, for us morons here, what is a stalk block?
Well, you're stalking them,
so
right?
You can't block engage. Is if you don't engage too soon. You wait until at least the ball is caught. And even then, you don't engage your receiver or your defensive back until Saquon or whoever's catching the ball gets close to you. And so there's like a little cushion, because the last thing you want to do is get on your guy too soon. And that's when you get those holding calls out there, because all of a sudden now the back break makes a break, and then all the officials see is your hands, and the guy is restricted from going to make the tackle. So it's a timing effort to make the block, and it's not a knockout block or anything. It's just position block to get on your guy as Saquon runs by you.
Is that a Fangio thing that they're so good at that?
Yeah, it's a big Fangio deal. Yeah, like it's one of his, it's one of his things. Like, being able to defeat that out there. Like, we're not going to, and so, but they also have the guys, some corners don't want to tackle. The Eagles, like Quinion and that 2-point conversion, the first one they missed, like the play is to Austin Eckler on the outside, and his ability to go make that tackle in the open field against Eckler was, took 2 points off the board.
Yeah, and you know what I'm fascinated by too in all these matchups is what's Carter going to do in the middle, because they're a little vulnerable in the interior part of that line because they had to kick Tooney out, right, to play tackle. So they're a little I know that, and that's a worry for them. So it's going to be interesting to see with Carter, because he's been a beast, Baldy.
Boy, so I don't know what the StubHub prices are for a Super Bowl ticket right now, because maybe you know better. But I would pay the StubHub prices to go watch Trey Smith against Jalen Carter. Like, it's just a classic SEC matchup, Tennessee, against Georgia. But Trey Smith is the best right guard in football. He's just an alpha male. He's looking to literally rip your jugular out. Now, you saw Jalen last week. I mean, just knocked the living punch. I mean, a knockout Mike Tyson punch on, Tyler Biadasz. Took the penalty, didn't care. Like, that's not happening to Trey Smith. Trey Smith's going to be the highest paid guard in football when he hits free agency this year. Like, he's just mentally, that matchup is going to be so much fun to watch. Now, what's interesting about that matchup is, are they going to do what Washington did and double Carter every play? Because that's what they did. And so Milton Williams had a good game. Other guys, Moro Ojomo had a good game.
Yeah.
But they doubled Carter every play. So will they do that with Creed Humphrey? Or do they think Trey Smith can handle Jalen Carter? Jalen Carter, Trey Smith, Patrick Mahomes told me about it literally the second week of practice when he was a rookie. He goes, Baldy, all I want you to do today is watch the howitzer that Trey Smith has. He started 4 fights and he's finished 4 fights. Like, that guy is my favorite. He's my favorite player. Like, he said that the second week of training camp when he was going after Chris Jones. The guy's mentality is, he's Jalen Carter playing right guard.
What did Buffalo do in the run game that made them so successful, right? Because Cook, when they needed that drive, they ran it. And they ran it between
I don't know why they didn't do it to start the game. I don't know why they didn't come out running to start the game, to be honest with you. Like, they took control of the game. I thought they had it. I thought it was 20-21, but I thought they had control of the game. Now they missed a 2-point conversion. They missed a 4th and 1. They had opportunities. But I thought that because the offense line is just that good. Doc is an unbelievable player. And I thought Osiris played really well. They're just good. They're good front. Alec Anderson comes in as 6th offense lineman. They're really good at what they do. And I think the Eagles could do the same thing. They don't have, they're every bit as good up front as the Bills are, if not better in some of those runs. But they have a couple runs that are unique to them, tackle traps, a couple different things that they like to do. But they're really good. And, the Chiefs, they're good, but they ran right at them. And they knocked them off the ball, and they creased them.
So at first blush, how do you – I know we're going to talk about it like 10 other times between now and next week, but how do you see this game script, like, in your mind? Because I'm sure you've already played it out.
Well, look, they hit their ghost. They got AJ involved in the game, from the very beginning. That's important. He's a unique player. I was talking to Alonzo Highsmith, who was in Tennessee with Vrabel, and when they had AJ Brown, and it gutted the team when they lost AJ. Like, he was such an integral part of that team that was run heavy and all that, like we are. But the go route against Marshawn Lattimore, if they do that against Johnson or even Trent McDuffie, he could win that route. Like, they got to take their shots. And so if they start dropping safeties down and playing single high, I think Jalen's a great deep ball thrower. He doesn't take a lot of shots, but if down the sideline, he's going to take his shots to AJ. Like, if they get 1 or 2 of those, that might be enough. But I think AJ showed, I thought Jalen showed a lot the other day of making good throws, but not putting the ball in any kind of risk. And he didn't do that the way Detroit did the week before. So he was still aggressive and just careful about it. And so it was very calculating, but it makes it a lot easier when you score on the first play of the game. It just takes all of the jitters that you have before a game completely go away. Like, you, in your mind mentally, you're already saying it's going to be a good day. We can handle these guys when you're up 7 and you put 7 on the board like that.
What is the mystique of the Chiefs, right? Like, because not only do you have to beat them, but you have to beat that mystique, right?
Well, here's the thing, cuz they come out in a formation on the opening drive of the game that they've never shown before.
Yeah.
All right. They've got Mahomes in shotgun, and they've got Kareem Hunt behind him in pistol. And he's got two tight ends, Kelsey and Gray, lined up in the backfield next to him. And they motion Gray into an inverted wishbone look. And they run an option play to Kareem Hunt. And the Bills completely overplay the play the other way. And Mahomes makes the right read. Kareem Hunt goes 12 yards for a touchdown. In the fourth quarter, they ran the exact same formation. They hadn't run the play since first quarter. The exact same formation. This time, they overplay Kareem Hunt at the mesh, and Mahomes goes 10 yards for a touchdown. Like, you don't know what they're going to give you. They're going to give you something you haven't seen. And that's what they did to the Eagles in that first preseason, in the first Super Bowl. And they got two touchdowns off basically the same motion. And the Eagles screwed it up both times. And so two guys that should never score against the Eagles score. And it was the difference in the game when they had that big second half comeback. So what is Andy Reid going to bring and show you in this game? You can look at all the micro bets that are out there, Kelsey, whatever. They're going to do something that they haven't seen. And, Chip Kelly told me a long time ago that, Baldy, sometimes we double up a play because it works, and sometimes we double up a play because it should have worked. And I never forgot Chip telling me that, because he doubled up plays a lot when he
all
first
the time,
got
yeah.
And that's what Andy did the other day. They brought that same play back, and Mahomes made the right read. So they're going to give you some cheese routes. They're going to give you some stuff that you haven't seen. And how are you going to handle it?
Ball, do you like the 2-week lead up, or do you want to get right to the game?
I'd like to get right to the game, but you can't do that anymore. My brother played for the Bills when they were going to 4 straight Super Bowls, and their first one was against the Giants. It was a 1 week buildup. They literally flew from the AFC Championship game to Tampa for Super Bowl 25, and it was still one of the greatest games of all time. Norwood misses a field goal to go win the game at the end, but it was a great game. I think 2 weeks, honestly, it's about everything but football for 2 weeks. And I've talked to players that have played in the game, prominent players. I'm not going to drop their names here because they probably won't to hear this. But they're like, the last thing, he goes, it's almost anticlimactic, the game, because of all the others, halftime show, pregame show, all the stuff during the week. Can we just hurry up and play the game, a real game, like we saw last week? I understand the 2 weeks. It's necessary with all the promotions and everything. But I kind of wish they just got back to being in I always say it's the life of a fruit fly. Fruit flies live for 7 days. Just get in your life cycle of a fruit fly. Just live your 7 days, get ready to go play.
Genius.
I don't want to be a fruit fly.
Genius.
I don't want to be a fruit fly.
A fruit fly.
Yeah.
That's genius.
Yeah.
Baldy, I said to him today, I go, dude, I want to play. I want the game.
But you got to understand, as a fan, you want the 2 weeks. We're celebrating for 2 weeks now. We have some Sazeracs and some bourbon. We have a good time for 2 weeks.
No, I get the fans love it, and all the everything that's going to go in New Orleans to put on a good party and a good show and all that. I get it. But honestly, as a player, even in the last Super Bowl, obviously the field was the story. They put this freaking
no Sodfather this year
logo and all this stuff all over the field, and nobody was playing on an ice skating rink, and it really detracted from the game. It's just one of those examples of enough hype. Play the game in a parking lot. Play it at Arrowhead, but play it on a real field. Without all those logos and guys are slipping, that's stupid. That's really I hope that doesn't happen.
And then I did the halftime. It's a 35-minute halftime. It's so much. It's too much. It takes away from the game.
I honestly think you'd get the same audience if you didn't have all of that. The halftime. If you had a 12-minute halftime
yeah.
I think you'd have the same audience. I know they're trying to draw in all these people that don't watch football and all the kind of the celebrities and all that stuff. Honestly, I think you'd get the same. You could still show all the commercials and all this. I think you'd still get the same I think you'd still get the same 150 million people, whatever it is.
Hey, Baldy, it's 4,098 to sit upstairs. You paying that for this matchup?
No. I've never paid for a concert ticket in my life. Like, I wouldn't pay $100 for anything. But I'll get into the game. I'd find a way to get in.
I'll
tell you a quick story, and then I got to go, cuz.
Yeah.
I remember when at North Carolina, when they opened up the Dean Smith Dome. So we went from Carmichael Auditorium to the Dean Smith Dome.
Yeah.
It was like the first week in January, and they're playing Duke. And Krzyzewski's got the best team in the country. So I'm visiting. I'm in Durham. I'm visiting, and I'm like, I got to get into this game, but I'm not paying any prices. So for anything. So I found out that this Bullock's Barbecue was catering the media breakfast, and I knew the guy Bullock, and I go to see him Friday night, Saturday afternoon's a game. I go, dude, can I come in and just serve eggs with your crew? I just want to get into the game. I got to get into the game. So I go in there with him, and it turns out that Mike Krzyzewski's wife, who sat behind him every single game her whole life, was ill, and she wasn't coming to the game. And I end up sitting in that seat, and there's Michael Jordan and Matt Doherty and all these famous alumni from North Carolina. They're all looking at me like I've got the best freaking seat in the house. Like, you got to find a way. You just got to find a way. But I wouldn't pay. I'd go with the catering group. I'd figure something out.
Baldy! Baldy's a caterer serving eggs to get in the game. That's genius.
I still love that story with Michael Jordan sitting up there 13 rows behind me. And I'm sitting behind
That's the greatest. Take that, MJ! A Baldy! That's fantastic. My brother, I know you got to get to practice. We'll talk to you this week.